Hello and welcome to the Market Advantage podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gobo at JGobo11, talking about some price differences, some matchups, some guys that people are deciding between. We're going to give you our take on some people that are 50-50 kind of coin flip type of plays here as well. So talking about pricing discrepancies, first guy Darren Williams, $5,800 on DraftKings, $67 on FanDuel. And I mean, he's been actually really good recently. Certainly not a guy you ever play for your defense, and it's not a great matchup for him against Mike Conley. But you look at his production recently. I mean, at least 6 assists and 6 of his last 7 games. He's scoring a decent amount of real points as well. I mean, price relative on DraftKings, I think he's a viable play tonight despite the tough matchup. But not sure that I'm looking to pay almost $7K for him on FanDuel against Conley.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I think DK is a more viable option. He's been actually seeing big minutes, which has kind of been surprising because I know they were worried about his health. But the assist production has been insane, and I think once the house gets fully healthy with Parsons and Matthews, it's going to be a really great offense to target. But I know on FanDuel, Conley right around that price. I'd rather go with him. Just easier matchup, I think, against Ron Williams. And just for a similar price, I do prefer Conley there.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm trying to match up one-on-one with either of these guys, I'm going to say maybe next time Mike Conley. I'll take Darren Williams here. Kobe Bryant, speaking of old men, $6,100 on DraftKings, $72 on FanDuel. And obviously this one, biggest spread of the night, also the highest total, mostly because the Warriors just do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. Kobe's had some decent games recently, but as always, he's sat out a couple times as well. They say sore back. So $7,200 on FanDuel, I just don't see any potential for upside there at all. I mean, his best type of game is going to be him reaching value there at best. So $6,100, if you're making a bunch of lineups on DraftKings, he probably won't be a popular play. He's cheap relative to his potential production because you know he's going to jack up 15, 18 shots in this one. Someone's going to need to score if this game stays close. So I suppose if you're going to play a lot of lineups on DraftKings, you target him. But not a guy that I'm going anywhere near on FanDuel, though.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, did Kobe just stop going to the gym after he has bad shooting nights where he gets a camera crew in there and just shoots jumpers all day? Because, I mean, he's shooting 27% the last game, 38%, 31%. He's just been awful shooting the ball. But 6,100, I mean, he has put up some decent fantasy point games. I guess someone's going to have to score.
Well, not everybody can be Tim Duncan at the tail end of their career and still be good. So Kobe wishes he was Tim Duncan. He's not, unfortunately for him. But, I mean, for 3-point bonus on DK, things like that, I imagine that he's a viable tournament option there, but that's it. Next up, Pau Gasol, $7,100 at center on DraftKings, $7,800 at power forward on FanDuel. He's been very, very productive on a per-minute basis recently, but the issue with Pau Gasol is that he hasn't seen minutes. 27, 28, 27, 28 in his last 4 games. I mean, his production's been there. He's been great in all of those games, but it seems to be probably somewhat related to the fact that last year he was just beaten into the ground, played 36, 38, 39 minutes a lot of nights. They're letting the old man rest and not play a huge amount of minutes, which is frustrating from a DFS standpoint because he's so productive when he's on the court. But especially with Derrick Rose expected back here, they're not going to need him to do as much tonight. So I think at his salary, I mean, he's a guy I'll throw in GPPs because, as you know, he can put up points in a hurry. But not a guy that I'm looking at in cash games, though.
Yeah, I mean, Thibs isn't there in Chicago anymore to ride these guys 35-plus minutes at the beginning of the season. And we're kind of seeing that with Gasol. I mean, he's been really good. I mean, he's been a really solid player. He's averaging 14 to 10 in the season, but I mean, only in 29 minutes per game. So you want to see your starters 35 around that mark, especially in probably what's going to be a really competitive game tonight. So just too many other guys priced around a similar point that I like better.
Yeah, and at that price, I mean, 14 and 10 is all well and good, but there's no upside in 14 and 10 right there. So Al Horford next up, $6,900 on DraftKings, $74 on FanDuel. Jeff Teague, probable. He's expected back tonight. This is a matchup against Boston where Al Horford had a great game first time out against them. He's the kind of all-around player, the guy you love to play in cash games because even if he's not scoring, he's still productive. Went for 13, 6, and 8 last time against Boston. As we know, Boston, a good defensive team, but not great against big men. Kind of similar on the other side, too. Atlanta also not very good against big men. But Al Horford, I think, if you're going to pay up for a center and you're not going with a Marcus All or DeAndre Jordan, I think that Al Horford makes a lot of sense. I mean, he does have a nice high floor. I don't see him as much of a tournament option because he just hasn't really needed to show that upside because there's so many other options on that team.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a nice 30. I mean, 30 fantasy point floor there, but you're looking at guys like Marcus All, who triple-double threat, obviously, when he gets things going, especially if Randolph's out, he's going to play upwards of 30 minutes tonight. DeAndre Jordan, we know his upside. So I just think, with their peripheral game, you like them a little bit more than Horford, but really a safe cash game option for sure.
Yeah, next up, Derrick Rose, expected back tonight, like we said. $6,000 on DraftKings, $7,000 on FanDuel. Been wildly inconsistent as we've seen this season, but last game, he sat out, but the last game he played, I should say, against Indiana, went for 23-6, 41 DraftKings points. He's had himself a decent floor, but I mean, he just has not been shooting well at all this season. I mean, you look at him shooting 38% at home, 37% away. I mean, he's just not been shooting the ball well, and if he's not shooting the ball well, we know he's not attacking the rim with the sort of success that he was, in previous years in his career. So it's just not a great situation for Derrick Rose for me. I'll put him in some tournaments because Damian Lillard, not known as a great defender necessarily, but I just don't trust him. He's never going to be a cash game play for me again, I don't think.
No, I mean, shooting 3 for 20, and from 3 this season, that's just awful.
Yeah.
If I'm making like an all-injured team, I'm definitely going to start it off with Rose and Kobe tonight on DK. I mean, no one will see that coming. No one.
The all-risk team. Rose, Kobe, next. But yeah, I mean, that's about the one thing you can rely on is the fact that he's not going to be healthy every game. So Derrick Rose certainly still a talented player, but unfortunately not the player he once was. And I mean, especially with the emergence of Jimmy Butler, they don't rely on him nearly as much as they used to. So next up, we're going to talk about a couple guys trying to decide, between a few players as far as similarly priced players. We're talking about point guard, Damian Lillard versus Chris Paul. Obviously, Chris Paul with a cake matchup. Lillard, not a bad matchup either. But we have seen Jimmy Butler take on extra defensive role against top point guards, top any guards at all, really. So it's a possible... No word. This is obviously speculation on your part and mine to think that maybe Jimmy Butler sees some Damian Lillard. But trying to decide between these two, the only thing that really kind of hurts Chris Paul for me is that he's been, basically this season for me, he's been in defer first mode. It's been feed the ball in down low, worry about it later. I mean, the game against Golden State, no one really knew he was going to play. Wanted to make a statement, I'm guessing, against Steph Curry and be like, hey, I'm still here too, guys. Like, I'm a pretty damn good point guard too. But at the same time, I mean, it hasn't been shoot first for Chris Paul. And even when it has, I mean, he hasn't shot well either. I mean, his last 2 games, 38, 33%. Shot almost 60% in that Golden State game, but 2 for 11 the game before that. So I think for me, much higher usage rate for Lillard. A slightly tougher matchup if he does see some Jimmy Butler, but I mean, he's just way more important to that offense than Chris Paul is to the Clippers offense. So I'm on Team Lillard tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I'm definitely on Team Lillard. I just think Chris Paul's been just too inconsistent. Definitely a tournament play, though, just because the matchup's great, going to be high scoring. We've seen him be in the 40s, and that's kind of now a price where it's acceptable for Chris Paul because he's only, in the 8,000s for salary. But I mean, he's had a floor of in the 20s, which is not great at all. And I think he's been the more consistent fantasy player. And I think even if he does see some Jimmy Butler, probably still, a pretty safe floor tonight for fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Chris Paul, it's nice to see his price down. We saw it in the mid 9Ks there for a while, but I mean, it's down for a reason though. So, a couple other things to look at here. If we're looking at paying up for one player, if you can only pay up for one player, you personally, who are you going to play?
Paul George. He's the guy. Safest floor. Great matchup against Washington. They're ranking the bottom 5 in fantasy points allowed to small forwards. Dude's just been incredibly consistent regardless of whether George Hill's out, whether Ellis is taking over. I mean, the guy's just good. I mean, he's just getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, easily a top 10 player in the NBA, borderline top 5 the way he's playing. Yeah. I find it hard to disagree because really the only other one that's in that consideration for me as far as paying up instead would be Lillard. And the only reason Steph Curry isn't is because, I mean, Steph Curry could shoot over 30. Well, I don't know if he's capable of that, but Steph Curry doesn't need to do anything at all, really, for the Lakers to beat the Lakers. 17.5 point spread. Gotta love it. I mean, the matchup's not going to get any better for Steph Curry than against this Lakers team. I mean, it's probably going to be pretty embarrassing for as long as he needs to play. But I mean, even in blowouts, he's still seen some run in the third quarter. But I mean, I just don't see any way that the Lakers keep this game close. So I'll still throw Curry in some tournaments because he does have that massive upside. Maybe someone from the Lakers gets hot and this game stays close until the fourth, in which case Curry has an enormous ceiling. But I just don't see paying for him in many formats tonight in that situation.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
All right, that'll wrap things up for us here. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got lots of other great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.